Hey everybody, I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, and in this video for the game of Stargrave, I'll be setting up my table to play the first scenario from the Last Prospector supplement. Both this book and the Stargrave core book were written by Joseph A. McCullough and published by Osprey Games. If you're new to this channel, I play all my battles using Lego and other toy bricks. I play the game against myself, trying to make the best choices for each crew without picking favorites. I always welcome feedback from viewers about rules I might miss or questions they have, as I want my videos to be accurate and helpful to the Stargrave community. I make my measurements off camera to save time, and due to the feedback from a few surveys I posted, I'll also be making my dice rolls off camera now, but still overlaying the results, to further save some time, and I'll be adding some quiet background music as well. This video will have a longer introduction than most of the battle videos in this series, as I'll be explaining the basics of how to play the Last Prospector campaign and introducing my crews before I get to the bricks and blocks of Scenario 1, the bar fight. The story for the Last Prospector has the crews searching the Honoreb system, an area known for mining, for an old friend who has come across a big score. 6 factions control the system, and various things the crews do in their battles can increase or decrease their standings with each of these factions, which can provide some in-game and out-of-game bonuses. Investigation points are gained for securing loot and for some other things, and the player that receives the most in a given battle will get to choose which of scenarios 2 through 9 to be played next. The investigation points are added to a running total, and before the 10th and final scenario, players get to spend the points they have to purchase some additional bonuses for just that game. If you want to know more about the Last Prospector, I have an overview video you can check out, or you can purchase the supplement through the link in the description or from your friendly local game shop. The Last Prospector campaign works best if the same crews participate in all 10 scenarios, so I've created 2 new crews, which will be the only ones used for this campaign. And I've used some backgrounds, powers, and soldiers from both the Last Prospector and the Quarantine 37 supplements to make these teams. The captain of my first crew is Errooo, a biomorph with increases to his health, fight, and shoot stats. His starting core powers are Adrenaline Surge, Fling, Restructure Body, and Toxic Secretion, and he also has Armory. Captains get 2 bonus points to lower their activation numbers, and he used 1 point each for Adrenaline Surge and Toxic Secretion. And I've created him with the goal of trying to make a viable shooting-focused captain. Normally, he'll be carrying a flamethrower and rapid fire, but this battle restricts some combat equipment, so for this battle he's carrying a pistol, hand weapon, deck, picks, medkit, and wearing heavy armor. His first mate is Sergeant Ruga, a veteran with +1 health and +2 fight. His core powers are Armory, Coordinated Fire, and Remote Firing, and he also has Fling. His role will be focused on support with loot and defense, so he carries picks and a deck. He'll normally have combat armor, but that's not allowed in this battle, so he has heavy armor, a pistol, and a hand weapon. The soldiers of their crew are a Codebreaker, a Pathfinder, a Robot Sentry, a Robot Chiseler, a Recruit, a Striker, one of the new soldier types, and a Bruiser, also a new soldier type, and a Runner are joining them this battle. And they're saving 55 credits for a potential ransom that might be needed at the end of the battle. They're a ragtag team of mercenaries with backgrounds as soldiers, former pirates, old friends, and informants who left some of the local gangs and factions and joined up to find a way out of the Honoreb system. Errooo and his crew have been commissioned by some people in a neighboring system to find a missing family member, the Prospector, and bring him home safely. And the crew's ship is an armored personnel carrier called the Iron Golem. My second crew is led by Captain Smada, an aristocrat, a background from Quarantine 37, and has increased his health by +1 and will by +2. His starting core powers are Concealed Firearm, Command, and the new Inspiring and Investments. His non-core power is Haggle, and he's used his bonus captain points to decrease the activation numbers for Haggle and Investments by 1 each. He carries a pistol, hand weapon, deck, picks, and a medkit, and his heavy robes will count as heavy armor. Aristocrat captains gain 50 bonus credits to start with, and can select one ship upgrade that's worth 500 credits or less to start on their ship, so they've installed an advanced medical suite to help with survival rolls after the games. His first mate is Blinky, an investigator, a new background from the Last Prospector, and is able to increase both his health and will by +2. His core powers are Bait and Switch, and the new Information Broker and Smash and Grab, and he also knows Transport. He wears heavy armor, carries a deck and picks, and had to trade in his flamethrower for a pistol and hand weapon in this battle. Both Captain and First Mate will focus on loot unlocking and supporting their combat-focused soldiers, which include a new Striker Soldier that's a robot, and a new Bruiser Soldier. They also have a Pathfinder, a Sniper, 2 recruits, a runner, and a medic, who is needed to make use of the Advanced Medical Suite. This crew is part of a 7th faction in the Honoreb system that functions as a crime family, with Captain Smada being a younger son trying to prove himself. His crew picked up intel about the Prospector and his big score, and will be racing against Errooo's crew to find the missing person and prove himself to his family. Their ship is a luxury cruiser that has been fitted with upgrades for combat and known as the Negator. For anyone interested, I have a behind-the-scenes video that will release shortly after this video does, that discusses some of the kit bashing I did to put my crews together, discusses the terrain pieces I use in this scenario, and explains some other background things that aren't needed to watch the campaign battles, but could be interesting if you want to know more. The bar fight scenario takes place, of course, in a bar on Penthelia Station. It has 3 doorways in the middle of 3 table edges, and these are the only ways off the table. A data loot is used for the central token, some files about the Prospector that were hidden in the kitchen, and the crews have placed their physical loot tokens here, and data loot tokens here and here. Any of the tables that are represented on the battlefield can be flipped as a free action to provide light cover. The bar is considered to be packed with patrons, but rather than adding 50 plus miniatures on the board, they're imagined rather than represented, to create a game mechanic. For the first 2 turns, while most of the patrons are fleeing, no figure can make more than 1 move action each turn. And I'll point out that power moves do not count as move actions, so they will still be allowed even if the figure already moved. And all shooting attacks are at -2. And throughout the whole scenario, whenever shooting attacks are made, the figure can either blaze away, meaning a natural roll of 1 or 2 hits an innocent bystander, which will have consequences after the game, or use selective firing, meaning the figure gets a -1 to their shoot, but has no chance of hitting a bystander. The scenario uses the unwanted attention rule, however anything that shows up counts as a Penthelia Station security, and they all count as non-pirate robot versions of whatever is rolled. However, I'll be using my normal trooper figures to represent them due to needing lots of figures. Also, a +2 is added to all the rolls as the guards are nearby, and they'll enter via one of the 3 doorways, and the nearest crew member is their target point. Being a well-guarded station, bar patrons are required to check their large weapons and combat armor at the door. Instead, every figure is assumed to be carrying a pistol and hand weapon they've snuck in, even if they don't usually carry them. And these are the only weapons allowed. No rapid fires, flamethrowers, grenades, or launchers. And finally, the scenario calls for both the crews to be split up, with their captain and first mate set up in opposite corners with 4 soldiers each. So for story purposes, up here we have Errooo consulting with his informant and his bodyguard, the runner and the bruiser, who have just shared they hid some data about the Prospector in the kitchen, and have made a deal with the crew of the Iron Golem in exchange for safe passage out of the Honoreb system. And the crew's 2 robots, the Chiseler and the Sentry, are there, and their sensors have just sensed trouble in the maintenance shop. So they've alerted Sergeant Ruga, who's positioned across the bar in case of trouble, along with the Casecracker, Recruit, and fast-moving Striker and Pathfinder, who are springing into action. Just then, a gunshot rings out from the maintenance shop, sending bar patrons into a panic and running for the exits. The Negator's first mate, Blinky, steps out of the back storage room with their sniper, runner, and 2 recruits. And amidst all the chaos, Captain Smada appears across the bar with his Pathfinder, Striker, Bruiser, and Medic. To start out the battle, the captains and first mates can use before-game powers. Errooo has 3 of them: Restructure, Body, Toxic Secretion, and Armory, and he failed all 3 of those. But his first mate over here, Ruga, successfully used Armory, and since nobody can wear combat armor, he's just going to use that to give the Pathfinder +1 damage with his pistol. And Captain Smada's crew has no before-game powers. So for initiative, Errooo won with a 19 against 16, and he's going to start out by group activating with his 2 robots here. Doing a group activation instead of standard activation requires all the figures to do their first movement action before they do their second action. So the Chiseler will move 6 inches there. This Sentry is going to move 5 inches up against this table. And then Errooo is going to move 5 inches over here and get within 1 inch of this Chiseler. And then he is going to choose to do his second action first. And he is going to use that to use the Fling power. Activates on 8, and he rolled a 9, which will fling this robot right over here next to that loot. And this immediately brings up a rules question. The Fling power will stun the figure that was moved by it, but the robot is in the middle of his activation. It's been ruled with the wounded status that if a figure starts its activation with 2 actions and becomes wounded after their first action, they will still get however many actions they started with. So I believe it'd be the same here with stunned. So he would still get his second action, he would just stay stunned this whole turn and would have to get unstunned when he activates next. But let me know in the comments your thoughts on this ruling. And then Errooo will do his power move, and as I mentioned at the start of the video, that the power move doesn't count as an action, so they're still allowed in addition to a regular movement these first 2 turns. This Sentry will then use the special ability in this scenario to use a free action to tilt a table on its side to gain light cover. So we'll just kind of tip it like that. And then we will have this robot that apparently gets this second action attempt to unlock this data loot. It gets a +1. It's a Chiseler, not a hacker. And on a roll of a 20, it succeeds. And we'll just put him stunned there. And actually I'll lay him on his stomach so I know he's just stunned, not dead. And then we'll put this data loot token right next to him. Then over to Captain Smada's captain phase. He's going to activate with his Bruiser and his Medic. He will start out by having the Medic run 7 inches up this way. And it can't do a second movement action, so it'll wait there. The Bruiser will run 6 inches this way to right there. And then Captain Smada is going to use Inspiring on his Striker. Needing a 10, he rolls a 19. He'll power move 3 inches here and then move another 5 inches right down here next to those 2. And that increases the Striker from +5 to +6 fight. And moving to the first mate phase, over here Sergeant Ruga will activate with the Codebreaker and Recruit. The Codebreaker will move 6 inches over here and will forfeit his second action. Then the Recruit, I guess, will move over here 6 inches right behind him. Then Sergeant Ruga is going to use the Coordinated Firepower on the Pathfinder. He needed a 12 for that and got a 16. And then he will move 5 inches and power move 3 inches to right there. And moving to Blinky back here in the maintenance shop, he will group activate with his Sniper. He'll start by sending his sniper 6 inches over here. And then Blinky is going to do his 5-inch move over to here. And with he'll do his second action first. He attempted transport, but he needed a 14, and with a 4 he fails. And so the sniper will have to give up his second action as he can't do a double move. But since Blinky does still get a power move, he'll power move 3 inches right over to here. Then moving to the soldier phase, since figures don't have to worry about any grenades being launched, this Pathfinder is going to come right up here, 7 inches next to his the first mate, and then the striker is going to run right over here, 7 inches as well, clumped together. And then back here to the runner and the bruiser. The informant here is going to run 7 inches around here to right there, and then the bruiser is going to run 6 inches off over here. To Captain Smada's soldiers, their Pathfinder is going to run right through here, 7 inches, and then their striker with the increased fight is going to run up kind of right beside him there. And then moving back here to the maintenance shop, they've got a runner that is going to run 7 inches over in front of this machine. And then one of the recruits is going to run this way 6 inches. And the other one will run around this other side 6 inches this way. And at the end of the turn, this scenario uses the unwanted attention rule with a few changes. Anything that's rolled up counts as a robot, and it's part of the Penthelia station security. And it also gets a +2 to the rolls because the guards are nearby. And the results show a pirate trooper that shows up at a randomly determined doorway. And this does happen at the end of the turn, which is after the creature phase, so he will not activate this turn. Moving to turn 2, Errooo wins the initiative again, and the -2 penalty for shooting and the limit of 1 movement are still in effect for this turn. Errooo is going to activate by himself. He'll use his power move to go 3 inches to right here, and then he is going to attempt Fling again on the robot, but failing his roll by 5, he will not choose to exert, and then he will do his 5-inch move right over to here. Moving over to Captain Smada's phase, he will activate with his medic and with his bruiser. He'll start with having the medic run around here to this physical loot, and the medic will attempt to unlock that with a +3, and rolling a 20 opens that up and gives him a nice loot bag to haul around. And then the bruiser is going to activate next and run right over here. 6 inches can get him right behind the medic to be a human or Gomorian shield. Captain Smada will then activate, and he is going to move 5 inches this way and then power move up against this table. And then he is going to use the inspiring power on the Pathfinder, which he easily succeeds with, and then he can use a free action to upend this table to give himself some light cover. And now that Pathfinder has +4 fight, we'll move over here to Sergeant Ruga, and he is going to do a group activation with the Pathfinder and the Case Cracker. First, the Case Cracker is going to run around here 6 inches next to this loot. And then Sergeant Ruga is going to run right up behind him. And then the Pathfinder will run over there next to the loot as well. And then for their second actions, the Case Cracker will activate first. He's got a +2 will. He'll attempt to break into that and easily does. That is a physical loot, so he can immediately pick that up. Next, we will have Ruga activate, and he is going to use Fling, which he successfully uses just barely. He does take 1 point of strain damage, and then he is going to fling this Case Cracker 6 inches over this way with his loot, and that will put him stunned right over here with his loot. And then he will power move 3 inches this way. Then the Pathfinder will use his second action to take a shot at this Penthelia station guard. He will use selective fire so he doesn't hit any bystanders though. with all those penalties, but then the +1 bonus for coordinated fire. The Pathfinder is +1 against +3 because of hasty shot, but the Pathfinder easily succeeds, and with his armory bonus deals +1 damage, bringing the 11 armored and 12 health trooper down to 5 health. It is stunned from that. And moving to Blinky, he is going to activate with the sniper, and he will have the sniper start out by moving 6 inches right over here. Standing on this counter, he is going to attempt to break into that data loot, and with a 20 and his +3 will, he easily breaks into that. So that data loot pops up right there. And then Blinky is going to run over here, 5 inches. And from right there, he successfully uses transport, needing a 14 and getting a 16. He will transport this runner right in here next to the loot. And after rearranging the terrain a little bit, he will stand right there. And then Blinky will do a 3-inch power move right over here, starting to get close to this doorway. Moving to the soldier phase, Errooo's recruit is going to run 6 inches out here and take a hasty shot at the stunned trooper. That is a very difficult shot. The recruit is at -1, trying not to hit any bystanders, and the trooper is at a total of +5, and that definitely misses. Seeing that the shooting wasn't doing quite what they wanted, this striker will run over to get into combat, and that will take the trooper out of being stunned. And she will attack with a +5 against +0 since he was stunned. But she only gets a total of 8 against 16, and she takes 6 points of damage. Over at the top corner of the table, this stunned chiseler will stand up with its first action and then move 6 inches around here to right there. Then they'll have their runner come over here 7 inches and pick up this data loot. And then his bodyguard, trailing behind, is going to run 6 inches up here and can't do anything with its second action. And then back here, this sentry that was hiding behind this table can't really do much from there, so he's actually just going to come around here, and now he's within 10 inches to shoot this bruiser, and with a -3 for selective firing and being one of the first 2 turns, so a -1 total, and it is hasty. And the bruisers normally have a +3 fight and a +1 for being hard to target, so a +5 against a -1 attack, and that shot does miss with a 6 against a 9. Moving to Errooo's soldiers, they'll have this transported runner use his first action to pick up this data loot, and then it will run 7 inches over here, trying to get out the main exit. And then just in case a security guard pops out that way, this recruit is going to run over here to try to help the runner get out of the bar. And then their other recruit that's still in the maintenance shop is going to run 6 inches around here, trying to hang out close to the first mate. And then lastly, they're going to have both the Pathfinder and then the Striker run out over here towards the middle of the board to try to get to the hidden data loot that's in the kitchen. Moving to the creature phase, this trooper over here will do a +2 attack against the +5 striker, and the striker wins with a total of 23, and the trooper gets -2 defense and takes +1 damage because of the striker's ability to find a weak point and wield 2 weapons, dealing a total of 15 damage and kicking him right out the door. And apparently that trooper robot didn't actually get destroyed because my unwanted attention roll with the +2 for being turn 2 and +2 per the scenario rolled up another trooper to show up at that door. Starting turn 3, most of the patrons have fled the building, so there's no longer the restriction of how many moves a figure can do each turn, and there's also no longer the -2 penalty to shooting. And Errooo once again won the initiative, so he will activate with this runner that's just within 3 inches and this chiseler. The chiseler will run over here to attempt to unlock this data loot that's hidden inside the oven, and he fails with a total of 3 with his +1 will. And Errooo will now use the Adrenaline Surge power, activating on an 11, and he gets a 12. He does take 2 points of strain, but that gives him an extra action this turn and next turn. He'll use the extra action to take a shot at this Pathfinder. The Pathfinder is at +4 because of Inspiring, and it's just going to be a +2 shot because Errooo does not want to hit a bystander, and he ends up missing completely. I forgot to say he opted out of his power move, but he'll now do a 5-inch move right over here next to this Chiseler. And the runner that was activating, carrying this data loot, can run 10.5 inches, which can send him way over here into the kitchen to try to stay away from these heavy hitters that are moving in. And speaking of these two, Captain Smada is going to activate with these two. They're just barely within 3 inches. And the Pathfinder is going to run over here into combat with the Chiseler. And with his +4 against +1 attack, he hits with a 16 against 6, dealing 6 damage to the robot. And then their Striker is going to just double move all the way over here into combat with this loot-carrying runner. And seeing that he's getting close to the combat, Captain Smada wants to use Inspiring on himself, but he failed with a roll of a 5, needing a 10. So he will then just power move and move right around here. Going to the first mate phase, Sergeant Ruga is going to use Coordinated Fire on the recruit, and that works with a 16, only needing a 12. Then he'll power move and regular move into combat with this Striker. And then to Blinky's activation, he will activate with this recruit, and he'll start out, he can see through here to the stunned case cracker, and he is going to attempt bait and switch. He needs a 14, but he only rolls a 9, and he's not going to exert for that since it also deals 2 strain. And so then he is just going to power move and move this way. 8 inches can get him just into combat with this runner. And with the failure of the bait and switch, this recruit is going to take just a +1 shooting attack. He doesn't want to hit any bystanders that are still around. At the Codebreaker. The Codebreaker is normally a +3, but he is encumbered by that loot and stunned, so he's a +4. But even with that, the recruit rolled a total of 19, dealing 9 damage to the Codebreaker. And then the recruit is just going to run over here to have some cover behind this, but to start taking shots at enemy figures trying to leave the board. Moving to the soldier phase, the Pathfinder that's boosted by Coordinated Fire is going to take a +3 selective fire shot at this trooper, who's boosted to +3 because of the intervening crewmate. He ends up doing no damage though with his modified roll of 9 against 5. So then he will just move this way a few inches, right up against this wall. Then the recruit, also with Coordinated Fire, will take a selective fire shot with one intervening figure for a +2 against +3, but he ends up missing that with a 6 against 21. And then he will go ahead and move 6 inches this way. And then the Codebreaker will activate. He will use his first action to stand up from his stun and then just move into combat with this trooper, which will then allow the Striker to move into combat and attack with support. But even with the +7 that gives her, she only got a 16 against the trooper, who has a +2 but rolled a 19. So a 21. I just realized they have knives, not hand weapons, so that deals 10 damage, but she was already injured, and that is more than enough to take her off the table. And with their last remaining soldiers to activate, they will have this Bruiser do a double move 9 inches over here. Feels good to be doing double moves after the first 2 turns. And then this Sentry is going to move 5 inches over to here. And from right there, he will shoot his pistol over that at Captain Smada. The Sentry is just a +1, trying to avoid bystanders, and it's a hasty shot, so that gives Smada a +5. But the Sentry wins out, getting a total of 13 against 10, dealing 2 points of damage to the enemy captain. And for Captain Smada's soldiers, They'll start out by having this medic who can double move 5¼ inches, which is just enough to get him to this doorway and out into their ship, securing the first loot. Then their bruiser is going to double move down here into combat with this sentry to keep him from going to help his teammates. And then this runner up here can double move more than enough inches to get out the main entrance to secure a second loot. And then their sniper, not caring at all about bystanders, is going to take a shot over here at Captain Errooo. He's a +4. The captain is against that grill, so that counts as light cover since that obscures part of his body. So a +4 shoot against +6, but Errooo is able to defend that with a total of 23 against 8. He'll choose to move a little closer to the action, right down here against this fluid dispensary. And then this recruit down here is going to double move 9 inches over to here. Moving to the creature phase, I just remembered that I usually leave my fallen soldiers on the table, even though you're technically supposed to remove them, so I'll just put her right there. And then this trooper is going to now attack the Codebreaker, who doesn't have any support. The Codebreaker is encumbered, so it's a +2 against +2, and that trooper rolled really high with an 18 against an 8. The Codebreaker was already injured, down to 5 health, and so that 7 damage takes him out of the game. In the creature actions section of the book doesn't say what a uncontrolled creature does if they win a battle and defeat the enemy. It doesn't say that they'll charge at anybody else, so he's just going to stand there and guard this doorway to prevent anybody from leaving. And at the end of this turn, there's some more unwanted attention, this time just a ruffian who shows up over here, coming out of the docking bays. Having actually won the initiative, and with the appearance of another security guard, and the fact that Smada's team has already recovered 2 loots, Smada is going to attempt inspiring on this bruiser over here, which he successfully does with a 16, needing only a 10. Then he is going to power move and then move over here, trying to stay away from most of the action, and then maybe trying to escape off this side of the board here soon. And then Captain Errooo is going to do a group activation with his bruiser. He'll send his bruiser right over here into combat. And then Errooo, he does have extra actions this turn because of the adrenaline surge, and he will come right up here on top of this grill. And then the bruiser will attack with double support. That's a +7 against +4. And he ends up rolling a 17, getting a total of 24 against 8, which deals 14 damage to the Pathfinder, taking him down. And then with Captain Errooo, since he's standing right here next to the central data loot that's somewhere down in that grill, he will use his second action to attempt to unlock that. He's got +3 will and a data pad for +9, and ruling a 10 for 19 total means he has unlocked that. That'll go right there, and then he will use his third action from the adrenaline surge to just pick that up. And then Blinky will activate with the striker and this recruit. They'll start out with having the recruit take a shot at Errooo. He's a +1 while avoiding bystanders against a +4 defense, and Errooo defends that with a 15 against 10. And then the recruit is just going to run over here to add support to this combat. And then the striker is going to attack. These two don't add support because they cancel each other out, but the striker is a +8 against +1. And with a 22 and +1 damage, that deals 14 points of damage to that informant, and he goes down. And since this loot would be right on top of its body, Blinky will go ahead and activate, using his first action to pick this up, and then he is going to run 5 inches this way, trying to get towards the only door that's not guarded by security. And then Sergeant Ruga will activate by himself. He's going to attempt the Fling power on this striker. He activates on a 12 and he rolls a 14, which is successful, and then the striker gets a fight roll to resist. He's got that +6, but he only rolls a 5 for 11, so he fails to resist that, and he gets flung 6 inches in any direction, which will be Right over here is where Errooo wants him. Then Errooo will power move and move a total of 8 inches over here as the team is getting ready to try to retreat over this way and grab that physical loot on their way out. The soldier phase will start out here with Captain Smada's sniper trying one last shot at Captain Errooo. He's got a +4 and he doesn't care about bystanders against Erroo's +4, and with a total of 14 against 13, that deals 3 damage to the captain. It doesn't stun him, and then the sniper is going to run this way and kind of get over here, kind of climb over this table so he gets right over here on the other side of the first mate. And then their recruit that's over here is going to run 6 inches this way, and then he is going to take a shot at Sergeant Errooo over here. He's only a +1 trying to avoid bystanders against +5 due to hasty shot, but he wins with a 17 against 10, dealing 6 points of damage to the heavily armored Errooo and stunning him. And to their last soldier, their bruiser over here will attack the sentry. That's a +3 against +3, but he loses with a 10 against an 18, taking 7 points of damage. The sentry will push him out of combat, as the sentry would rather live than take down this cheap bruiser. And then the bruiser is going to move 6 inches over to here. For Errooo's soldiers, they'll have the Pathfinder start out by running over here next to Sergeant Errooo, and he is going to shoot at this trooper. He's a +3 with coordinated fire and trying not to hit bystanders against the +3 defense because of hasty shot. But with the trooper's 20, he defends whatever the Pathfinder will shoot at him. And then the recruit here will take a shot. He is a +1 trying not to hit bystanders against +2. And with his roll of 18 against 19, that's a 20 to 20, so the tie goes to the defender in a shooting attack. So no damage, and then he will just run over here and get into combat. Might as well take a hand-to-hand hit rather than a shooting hit against himself. And then the sentry that's now freed up, he will move 7.5 inches on a double move over here by their bruiser. And lastly, their chiseler will move around here 9 inches to right there. To the uncontrolled creature phase, this trooper over here will attack the recruit. That's a +2 against +2. And the trooper wins with a 16 against 6 and deals 6 damage to the recruit. Then over to the other side of the board, this recruit here can only see this sentry who is beyond the range of the pistol that he's carrying, so he is going to run out here 6 inches, but then the closest figure is this bruiser, so he will fire at him. That's a hasty shot. That gives the bruiser a total of +5 against the +0, I suppose, for the ruffian, so he doesn't hit any bystanders, and that definitely misses there with a 23 to 14. For unwanted attention, I rolled for a pirate shock trooper to appear down here, and this gives me an excuse to use my generic Bad Batch wrecker figure, who will show up down here in this doorway. We'll put him right there rather than all the way back against the wall. Initiative for the next round goes back to Errooo, and he is going to activate with the bruiser and the sentry, and he will start out by attempting restructure body on himself. He needs a 10, but he rolled a 2, so that fails. He is just going to power move and move, not his full movement, but right behind this droid to try to get some cover from anybody trying to take a shot at him. Then this bruiser is going to run 9 inches right up to here on his double move, and then the sentry will move 7.5 to right here, so he has some protection here at the side of the building as well. Over to Captain Smada. He is going to attempt to inspire that bruiser down there. Needing a 10, he only rolled a 1. So with that failure, he can just barely get to this doorway on 8 inches, and he's going to get off the board before more pirates show up there. For the first mate phase, Sergeant Errooo will activate with the Pathfinder. He'll send the Pathfinder 7 inches down here. We'll move the striker out of the way a little bit to right there, and he is going to attack this trooper With support, that makes him a +5 against +2. He gets a 22 to 6, dealing 11 points of damage, and that trooper still has 1 health point left. Then Sergeant Ruga will stand up from his stun and just run over here for some heavy cover against anything that might come his way. Moving to Blinky's activation, he will activate by himself, and he is going to attempt bait and switch on Errooo, who should be carrying this loot that I left over here. He needs a 14, but he only rolls a 6, and he will not bother exerting to succeed with that. He will then power move and move 8 inches over here next to the striker with his data loot. Moving to the soldier phase, over here this recruit is going to try to take down that trooper. With support, he's a +4 against +2, and with both dice coming up 14s, that makes him an 18 against 16, and they take down another trooper. And he'll just stand his ground in case another trooper comes through that doorway. Then their chiseler is going to move 9 inches down here into contact with the physical loot. And to Captain Smada's soldiers, this recruit is just within pistol range of this Pathfinder, so he will take a +1 selective fire shot against +3 defense, but he'll miss with a 5 against 17. Then he is going to move 6 inches around here. And then this recruit is going to just hop over the top of this and move 6 inches. And from right there, he'll take a +1 selective fire shot at that ruffian, who's got a +3 due to hasty shot. And he defends that with a 19 over an 11. And then this bruiser is going to charge into combat. And sneaking up on this ruffian, he scores a critical hit, dealing a whole lot of damage to that robot and taking him off the board. Then their striker will double move 10 1/4 inches over to here. And their sniper will double move 9 inches right over to here. To the uncontrolled creatures, this shock trooper back here cannot see anybody, so it will move 6 inches out here. From there, it can see this sniper with intervening terrain and hasty shot and selective firing. That makes a +3 shot against +5 defense, and that's a hit with a 19 against 11, dealing 9 points of damage and stunning this sniper and wounding him. Actually, just stunning him. He has 5 health remaining. The unwanted attention for this next round is another trooper that ends up showing up right here in the main entrance. Initiative for this next round once again goes to Errooo, winning with a 15 against a 9. He will activate with both these soldiers next to him. He is going to move 5 inches and then power move another 3 inches right down here, and then activate the Restructure body power. He needs a 10 and he rolls an 11. And he used the Restructure body to make himself so he can't be wounded since he's getting low on health. Then this bruiser is going to run down to right here. And this sentry is going to slowly come right to here. With Captain Smada off the board over here, we'll go to Sergeant Ruga's phase. And he is going to activate with this chiseler robot. The robot will pick up this loot, then kind of ride over everybody out of the doorway. And then Sergeant Ruga is also going to climb over everybody and leave the board. And then to Blinky's turn, he is going to activate with this sniper. The sniper will stand up from his stun and run 6 inches over to here. And then Blinky will pick up his data loot and run 7.5 inches over to here. Going to the soldier phase over here, the recruit and Pathfinder will choose to do nothing. They're just going to kind of guard that door in case something comes through. And kind of similarly over here, the bruiser and the striker are both going to run over here and get ready for something that might come through that door. And then this recruit that's over here is going to double move 9 inches over this way next to the first mate, trying to get some cover there. And then they've got one other recruit that's hanging out right here, and to try to stay away from those uncontrolled robots, he is going to run over here, 9 inches right to where the other recruit just left from. Moving to the creature phase, this shock trooper down here can actually see this Pathfinder. There's one piece of intervening terrain here, giving the Pathfinder +4 defense against +3 shoot for a selective fire, and the shot ends up missing with a total of 11 against 16. And then for the trooper, it can't see any figures, so instead of moving randomly, they move to the target point, which is the closest crew member, which is Blinky down here. So he will move 6 inches that direction, bringing him right up over to here. You still can't see Blinky, but from there he can actually see the Pathfinder with one piece of intervening terrain. With that being a hasty shot, the Pathfinder is bumped up to a +5 against just +1 for selective firing, and with both figures rolling a result of 16, no damage is dealt on a shooting attack. For unwanted attention at the end of the 6th turn, the roll gets a +6 and another +2 for the scenario, but only rolling a 3 means an 11 is rolled, and a 14 is necessary for something to actually show up, so no uncontrolled robots are showing up at any of these doors. For initiative, Captain Smada's team actually won that. I'm just going to quickly play out this final turn. It's important who makes it off the board because there's some extra experience bonuses given. So Captain Errooo is just going to activate with these 2 soldiers during the captain phase, and they will all just double move off the board, securing the central data loot. Then jumping to the first mate phase, Blinky over here can activate with both the sniper and this ruffian here, and they can double move off the board with this data loot right through this doorway. And then with no loot left on the table, the game is over, and these 3 soldiers over here and the 2 over here by this doorway are all considered to have made it back to their ships safely. For the after-game survival rolls, all the figures survived. However, any figure reduced to 0 health by a Panthelia Station security robot has been thrown into jail. So the Mercenaries had to pay 25 credits each to bail out their striker and their codebreaker, leaving them with 5 credits remaining. But since the crime gang didn't have any figures taken down by the robots, they gained 20 bonus experience points. The scenario also awards 5 experience points for any crew member that leaves through one of the 3 doors, and there's a -5 experience penalty for each bystander killed, but neither of the teams shot any patrons. Combining with the usual experience point awards, the Mercenaries gained 235 for using a lot of powers and unlocking more loot than their opponent. And Errooo used 2 levels to lower the activation number of Adrenaline Surge to 10 and increase his shoot value to +4. And the Crime Gang gained just 205 experience points, allowing Captain Smada to lower the activation number for Inspiring to 9, and Blinky to lower the activation number of Smash and Grab to 11. With the 1 data loot and 1 physical loot the Mercenaries recovered, they rolled up a Mind Sliver, an item from the Last Prospector loot table that can only be used by a psionicist, so they sold that for 100 credits and sold some trade goods for 250 and combined that with the 5 credits they had left over after paying for bail. So they used their cash to upgrade their recruit to a trooper, and the informant, after nearly dying in combat, decided he doesn't want anything to do with fighting, so he was replaced with a burner that was a former pirate, leaving them with 205 credits. The Crime Gang, with 2 data loot and 1 physical loot, found 250 credits, some Robot Eater rounds, a new item from the Last Prospector loot table, which they'll store for now, and a secret. Ruga successfully used the Information Broker power, which lets him sell the secret for 200 credits, but then also keep it to use or sell for just 100 credits after another game. And Smada succeeded with the Investments power to gain 50 bonus credits. Combining this with the 50 they already had, allowed them to upgrade their recruits to sentries and the runner to an engineer, a new soldier found in the Last Prospector book, that will give them some discounts on future ship upgrades. And Smada has 350 credits left over. And for investigation points that are awarded in this campaign, The Mercenaries gained 2, while the Crime Gang gained 3, based on how many loot tokens each crew recovered. The winner of this scenario gets to gain 1 point in 2 different faction standings, so the Crime Gang has increased their standing with the Freeholders League and the Darksiders, and the loser gains +2 with Molly. And since any of the scenarios 2 through 9 can be selected next, Captain Smada has selected Scenario 4, Welcome Down to Cratertown, to be the next battle in this campaign and video series. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss that battle. And feel free to check out the other content on my channel. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming. Thanks for watching and play well.